This is actually not pi 90 over 360. This is 90 over 180. I'm really sorry again. Let me do this math again so that like it helps you to understand. So as I was mentioning, the angles part was fine. So this was our arc. Okay, and we have this part which is uh, let's say alpha here and alpha here as well. This is our theta, and this is given as 10. This is 12.5. Okay, now we use the formula cos alpha equals to 10 over 12.5. Okay, that means what? Alpha is equals to 1 point, or cos inverse 10 over 12.5. Okay, I mean alpha is equals to cos inverse 10 over 12.5 gives us 1.2870. This is our alpha. Now 90 degree means actually it means 90 over 180 pi. That means pi over 2 actually. So pi over 2, because 180 is equals to one single pi. That means we have twice alpha, which is 1.287 into 2, which is 2.574, 2.574. This is our twice alpha. And pi over 2 is total entire region. 10 divided by, let me cross check. Sorry, this alpha was 0.6. This alpha was actually 0.6 here, 0.6435. Actually calculated the double together. So twice alpha means 1.287. This is actually 1.287, not that one. So 1.287 in this case, or 1.2870. So twice alpha is 1.2870. That means we have both these angles, which is 0.6435, 0.6435, and we need to find the theta in this case. Now, theta plus twice alpha is what? Pi by 2. That means theta is equals to pi over 2 minus twice alpha, which should give us 0.28379. Okay, that's our theta. Now, from here, we already found theta here. Now from here, we need to go to the next question, which is they are asking us to find the, let me see the question again. They're asking us to find the area of the shaded region. So the shaded region was which part? This topmost part. So we need to find what? We need to find the area of the total square minus this area. Now this area contains which substances? Sector area and triangular areas. The triangle area could be found half AB sine theta, or sine alpha, sine alpha, sine alpha. So finding our, we have already find our alpha. So half times AB means what? AB means 10 times 12.5, and sine alpha is sine 0. We have already found our alpha, which is 0.6435. So this is what? 0.5 times 10 times 12.5 into sine 0.6435 gives us a value of 37.4999. Okay, that means twice the area is how much? Twice the area of a triangle is 74.999889. Okay, now why did I multiply with 2? Because we have twice the same region. Here is this region, and there's another triangular region, both the same. Now we're left with the sector area. So sector area is using half r squared theta. Half times r square means 12.5, plus 12.5 is given as the radius in the question, and theta is we have found 0.28379. Using this 0.5 into 12.5 square into 0.28379, we tend to get 22.17109. This is our sector area. Now, area of square is what? 10 square, which is 100. So that shaded region is what? Square area minus triangular area, triangle, and triangle plus sector should be added. Subtracting, like, this should be the sequence, like sequence. Triangular sector should be added. Triangles and sector should be added together. Then that total result should be subtracted from the square, which should give us 100 minus 97.17009 equals to 2.8299. So this is our shaded region. Okay. Now moving on to our next question, which is in our next chapter, which is chapter 8. We have chapter 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11. Let's see. Exercise 8A, isn't it? Exercise 8A. That means exercise 8A, we have 2. From 2, let's see. We have some special ones here. Just a minute, let me. So from 2, we have number 3 here, which says this is exercise 8A. From 2, we have number 3, which says 10 twice s equals to 1.43. Now, they're saying us to solve the equation. Now, one thing we have to understand how these things looks like. On an axis, remember, how do I explain? So, A, S, T, and we have C. Now, I used to have a sir named Arifin sir. So we used to say that Arifin sir takes class. This should be in this situation. So Arifin sir takes class. Now, how do this count? Actually, the axis are here, all signs are present, like sine, cos, and all are like positive here on the first quadrant, this quadrant. On the second quadrant, like we count the quadrant in anti-clockwise direction, okay? Not the clockwise direction, anti-clockwise direction. In the second quadrant, only sine is positive. That's why S is given. On the third quadrant, only tan is positive, and on the fourth quadrant, only cos is positive. So that's how it goes. So all sine, this is all positive. This is sine positive, this is tan positive, and this is cos positive. Okay. Now they are asking us to find tan 2x of 1.43. Now, how is it going to look like? Let's see. Tan 2x, that means 1.43. We have a positive value of 1.43, we can say, which in this case, let's say tan positive value. That means tan twice s is equals to a positive value. Positive is of tan is in the first quadrant and the third quadrant, isn't it? That means this value and this value. But also consider one thing, we have got twice x. So let's see, they're asking us to find between 0 and 180. That means what? This angle is outside the range, isn't it? This is outside the range. 180 degrees, how much? Up until this part. So that means only this angle is going to be considered. So let's solve first. So 2x is equals to tan inverse of 1.43. Calculating this, we should get tan inverse 1.43, which is 0.96053. That means this angle is in radian, which is 0.965053. But remember, we have a 2x here, but we need to find what? Only x. That means x equals to what? Half of this into 0.5, or just divided by 2, we should get 0.480269 or 99. It goes on. So this is our x value, okay? Now moving on to the next question, we have number 6 here, which is cos of 2x equals to 0.74. Now they're given us a negative value. Now let's again draw it, all sine, tan, cos. So which two portion, cos is positive and cos is negative? Cos is positive over here, here, and negative in these two sides. Okay, we are dealing in for cos in this case. So we are observing for cos. This is negative for cos and these are positive. So for negative, that means these two quadrants should be considered, but they have given us a range which should be in between 0 and 180. That means what? Only this region is going to be considered. This is going to be eliminated because that's between 180. This is our 180 mark. That means this is the angle which you need to consider. Okay. Now, if that's the case, then this has to be, at first, let's do it in this way. We have already found that this is actually our, what? This angle is actually twice x, okay? This angle is twice x. That means what? In order to find this total angle, what should we do? We should do pi, like pi means 180 minus twice x. That should give us a value which we actually need. So this is actually cos twice x equals to what? 0.74. Why? Because we have already considered the pi's part, like this part. Now, if we try to find it, just a minute. Let me make this simpler for you. So we have, let's say, cos of twice x, isn't it? So cos of twice x negative 0.74. That means these are the two negative quadrant, and one quadrant should be over here. Like we should come over here. So let's say adjacent by hypotenuse. That means, let's say this is the case. This is adjacent is hypotenuse. That means, or this value is actually negative. That's the case, then we have to find the cos inverse in this case. But how do we do? That's our concern. So basically, just give me a second. Yeah. So basically, what I was trying to make sense, the previous knowledge was actually correct. So this is what? This is cos, like I mentioned, pi minus twice x is equals to, actually, this is equal to our negative cos twice x, okay? So this is our situation here. If that's the situation, that means what? That means negative cos 2x could be actually represented in this way, that, let's say, cos pi minus twice x. In place of cos 2x, we will substitute this value, which is minus is for cos 2x. So minus 0.74, we will be left with what? Cos pi minus 2x equals to 0.74. Okay, did you get the relationship? The relationship is cos, like in the negative quadrant, how do we find? Because we always calculate the angle from what? The origin, the x-axis, the initial zero axis. We need this angle, not this angle. So if that's the angle, we're given this as twice x. That means we have to find this part. How do we find this part? Total minus this twice x. Total is what? Pi. So pi minus twice x, but they have given us 2x. Then what's the relation between these two? So cos pi minus 2x is equals to actually negative cos 2x. This is the relation. Okay. Now in place of cos 2x, we would substitute the value which is minus 0.74. If we break the bracket, what happens? The negative sign goes, and we are left with cos pi minus 2x equals to 0.74. Now simply doing the calculation, pi and cos inverse, we should get cos inverse 0.74, which is 0.73 or 0.7377. Simply subjecting x, we should get, we should have pi minus 0.7377 divided by 2, we should get 1.2019. So this is actually our angle. Okay, so this is our x value. Now what does this x value mean? Or we can see this is our theta actually, which is this one. Okay, this angle which we need to find. Now moving on to the next one, number 3, we have number 2, which is saying that tan x is equals to negative 2.36, tan x equals to negative 2.361, and cos is negative. So where tans are negative, tan positive, positive here. That means other two quadrants, tan is negative. That means tan is, let's say, all sine, tan, cos. Okay, is it cos tan? Yeah, tan cos. Fine. So in this situation, we can see that tan negative would sit between these two places. Yeah, but they are saying there should be one common thing, which is cos should be negative also. Now cos is negative between here and here. So which are the two common part for these two negative? This one, isn't it? There tan and cos are both negative. That means we only will consider this portion. If that's the case, rest of the thing is similar. We need to find this angle. So simply just write that tan x is equals to negative 2.367. That means just give me a second to understand. Yeah, that means hold on a second. Tan means this is positive, this is negative. So we have x here. The region is given from 0 to 360. Yeah, 0 to 360. So simply x equals to tan inverse of negative 2.367 gives us what? Let me see. Negative 1.17. Now that is towards this part. That shouldn't be the case. Rather, the 2.367. Since we have considered the negative portion here already in the quadrant, so we can consider this part, 10x equals to 2.367, and solving x, we get 1.17106. That means what? That means this angle is actually 1.17106. That means this angle is actually 1.17106. Now how is that? Because we have already considered the axis in this case. Yeah, so like we have already considered the axis in this case, which is what? In the negative portion. So since we have already drawn it here, that means what? We actually considered it the angle. So this is actually the angle here. Now let's do the next one so that it becomes clear for you. Here it says this is sine 0.5x or half x, 0.179. Okay, 179, where tan is negative. Now it is given sine is positive in these two places, tan is negative in this place. That means only this part is going to be considered. Okay, if that's the case, so then we should consider 0.5x equals to what? Sine inverse of 0.179 With that, we need to consider that this is what? This angle gives us which angle? This angle. Now, how do we know that? We know that in this way, that sine equals to opposite by hypotenuse. So this angle is basically less than 90 degree or less than pi by 2. So if I find this sine 0.179, this is actually 0.17, 0.179996. This is actually very less than our pi 90 degree. That means what? That means this is actually the angle given. So this total angle should be what? Pi minus that angle. 0.5x equals to pi minus 0.17996. Therefore, x equals to what? Pi minus 0.17996 divided by 0.5. So pi minus answer divided by 0.5. This should give us a value of 5.923245. But they have said that this should be between 360. Does this fulfill our requirement? Let's say 2 into pi is 6.2836. That means yes, it actually fulfills our requirement. So it is less than 360 degree. So this is our angle. Now moving on to the next one, we have number 4 says, number 4, let's do the 11 number. It says cos 3x equals to negative sine 30 degree. Now what does this represent? What does this mean? This means if we, let's say, draw the curve cos 30x, isn't it? Cos 30x means we have negative sine 30 is what? Negative sine 30 is, let's find out. Sine 30 means we have sine 30. 30 means 30 divided by 180 times pi, and sine of this answer is 0.5. That means negative 0.5. That means negative 0.5. Now cos negative, that means here cos and negative, and the angle is between 0 and 360. That means we need to consider both of these angles. Okay. Now if we come here and see that this is actually 3x, isn't it? That means cos twice s equals to negative 0.5, or we can direct it like 0.5 here. 3x means we should be actually dividing them, dividing each of the term by 3, like later on. So cos inverse 0.5 means 60, or let's see. So it is 1.047, which is, so it is actually 60. We are getting 60 degree here. So 3x means we have to divide it by, like, divided by 3, isn't it? That means 20 degree. But see this thing, that this portion could also be considered. The third quadrant part could also be considered. Now the third quadrant means what? 180, 180 plus uh, this portion. So 180 plus our 60 degree, isn't it? That means what? That means in total 240 divided by 2, that means 120 degree. We have 120 degree here. And sorry, this shouldn't be actually 60 degree. This should be 180 minus 60. Yes, 180 minus 60, because we only need this part, not that part. That part is 60. This is 180 minus 60. That means 20. 120, that means 60 degrees actually given here. So this portion, we're getting 60. That means 60 is perfect. 120 is perfect. If we take a round clockwise direction, that means what do we have? 360 plus 120. We have here 480. Now 480 divided by 3 means what? That means 160 degree. That means that can also be considered. And we go further. 380, 480. Yes, that could also be done. If we go further, that means 360 plus, what do we have here? That is 240. 360 plus 240. That means 360 plus 240 gives us a value of 400 by 600. 600. So 600 divided by 3 means 200. That means we can also take this value. So these are the values we can actually take as a solution. And finally, is there any other value possible? 360 into 2 plus 120. That is 720 plus 120, which is 840. 840 divided by 3 is 8 to the 6, 2, 4, 6, it's 3, 6 are 24, 3, 8 are 24, so 280, isn't it? So 3 to the 6, 2, 4. So this can also be considered. So 280 degrees is also possible here. Anything else? And let's see. We have another portion which is 720 plus 180. So this gives us a value of 900 divided by 3, that is 300. So up until 300 is possible. Okay. So that's how far it is possible. So we can actually go until that. Let me see for the simplicity's sake. So that is how far it is possible. So yes, that's it, I guess.